So some people say, Perry, this thing is not going to work. How on earth are you going to make this thing happen? And I say to those people, there are lots of examples throughout history where we've done something that was at first impossible and made it possible. Our system today is based on what I just said. So long ago, this guy named Adam Smith, he made up a theory. Capitalism is not a science. Capitalism is an art. It was created out of nothing. There was no basis for the creation of capitalism other than to say, hey, maybe if we do this, it might work. And over the many years that it has been around, it's become the dominant system, not because it's true, but because people have believed in it. There are a lot of other systems, there are a lot of other things that have been created out of nothing against extreme odds. People saying it's impossible, and have made it happen anyway. So, not only do we have that in our favor, not only do we have history in our favor, but we also have this. And this is really cool. And it's hard to describe, so I'm not going to try to. But I'm going to give you a quick overview. So this is called the Viable Systems Model. And this guy, his name is Stafford Beer. Does anyone know who Stafford Beer is? I mean, not personally, but have you heard of his name, Stafford Beer? Okay, so Stafford Beer observed nature, and he realized that all viable systems, all living things, have 5 subcomponents that make them viable. And then he said, how can we map this so that we can apply that system to our human systems, organizations, such that, like living organisms, they thrive. And then he came up with this map. So my team and I looked into this, and it's freaking brilliant. So we are, what we're doing as we're designing our innovation, we're designing it based on this model, the viable systems model. We don't have time to go into it, like I said, but if you look into it, you'll see that it's a very rigorous and very stable process for designing systems that work in reality. So we could go through some thought experiments, take any one of these 9 areas, and I can walk you through how the system would work. But I'm going to come back to it in a minute. Let me just keep going, we'll come back to it. I want to acknowledge that there are enormous challenges to making this happen, as you can imagine. The one that we're tackling right now is the net benefit algorithm. We've made significant progress on that. There are a couple of other algorithms that are underneath that one that make the system run that we're also building out. So that one's, we're licking it. The bigger problems are inertia. So being able to convince people that the status quo is not the best system we have. It's the better system that we have. It's not the best. And getting them to move from it to something better. That actual movement is happening, and it's being done by organizations like the Zeitgeist Movement, Charles Eisenstein, and some other folks. But we have a long way to go there. Fairness is another issue, not because our innovation isn't fair. I believe it is fair. But people's perception, looking at it from the eyes of capitalism and representative government, see it as not fair. They believe that you need to have a government governing in order to make something fair. And then lastly, it's the power situation. So people with wealth in this system of debt, money, and government, people with wealth also have power. And that power comes from their wealth, and their wealth comes from the system. And so convincing those people that this other system will enable them to maintain their wealth but not their power, which is what will happen. That's a hard road to hoe in terms of converting them to something new. So and these are just a few of the major problems that we have. But the thing is, we don't have to have all of the answers. All we have to do is inspire people to look to us as a potential route to a world of total freedom and abundance. Because somewhere out there are people who have a bright idea that hasn't been tapped yet, that needs some inspiration, something to light that fire. Something like this, for example, or maybe TZM, or maybe Ingenuity. Put those people in the right context, and that idea will come out that will solve every single one of these problems. Our solutions exist in other human beings. So we just got to get the human beings in the right context.